Well, Jim, I think my aha moment was in January when we had the discussion around the value matrices, and you know, I saw it as a really good tool to use for evaluating what we're doing, and also to be able to give us some kind of a scoring system up front. So, you know, determining what the immediate and potential value are is really important, and applying that to our work I thought would be a great idea. So we were fortunate enough, if you remember, that we had Dave Hata there, and he came on board with that concept. And he and I remember we worked on the value matrices, and we applied it almost immediately to some of the meetings and workshops we went to. And then later on, we developed it for our industry advisory board meetings. So it helped us plan it out. And we're still working on filling out that matrix. And what's cool about it is it follows you along the path. So it's the immediate and potential value, but then it's the applied value. You know, did we do something with it? That's usually where people get lost. And then the realized value later on, which will be, you know, how does it impact the students, and how does it impact creating technicians that are valued by the industry. And then the last part of that whole thing is the reframing of it. So that's what my aha moment was.
As we've been working together for the last few years with Synergy, and especially as we're listening to the IAB, making sure that our product offerings are relevant. I know that we've used a lot of the Synergy language, but I've really seen you embrace the whole idea of the realized value being how many technicians can we have enter into the workforce. And that's really made it so that we can have a laser focus on that as one of our primary drivers.
Yeah.
So I know that particular tool has had meaningful impact to the both of us.
Yeah, and also the team, because I remember sitting down with Dave and he was sketching out, you know, well, when we do this type of outreach, how does that track to the end of producing a technician? And, you know, we've done so much over the past few years. We plan to use this to also look at, in hindsight, well, what activities actually got us something of realized value, and and there are several activities that haven't really panned out. So we have to stop thinking about doing those sorts of things and focus more on the things that give us the value, the realized value down the road, and based on our experiences. So that's been a real good benefit for us. And the other thing I like is that we use the Synergy language a lot.
Yes.
So, you know, the whole concept of scaling was a really cool thing right up front. It's something we've been trying to do. Having the Synergy community helped us develop that to a higher level. You know, having the ability to spread what we're doing, and then making sure that we've developed our materials so that the receivers can and the adopters can shift or change what we use. And we encourage people to do that all the time. I always use the phrase, do what makes sense for your community. We don't want you doing anything that doesn't make sense to you. And so, you know, we give them carte blanche to go ahead and shift and adopt and change things. And we encourage people to give us that feedback that we need to evolve ourselves. So the feedback we get allow us to change. It's usually more of changing the way we do things rather than changing the curriculum itself. Right. Because they're all modularized, so, you know, they can pick and choose what they want to use. So it's the way we do things. So if you remember when we started, you took some of these concepts and helped us improve one of our workshops.
Right. That was one of my biggest aha moments, is while we were preparing to embrace the Synergy methods in order to make our experiment work. We were deciding how we were going to eliminate weighting waste that existed in some of the fabrication offerings that we were giving. And you had sat there and explained to me that, you know, we weren't going to be able to increase the time of the workshop. We were going to have to get as much content within the 4 days as we would. And I remember specifically that aha moment of when I was discussing some lean manufacturing concepts. You had mentioned the idea that the student is the product going through the education system. And just like a product goes through a manufacturing line, a student goes through the educational process. And it made my whole paradigm shift onto what kind of waste does the student experience in the process. So we started targeting what kind of waste they were experiencing and eliminating that such that we could redistribute the waste so that we could have more meaningful hands-on time for the participants of our kits and materials portion of the workshops. Mm-hmm. And that made it so that they were much more comfortable using our materials. And I'm convinced to this day that it was that comfort in use that made our utilization of materials increase up to as high as 90%. So that's been one of the catalysts of our success, I think, is that we were able to adopt that synergy language into something that was kind of natural between the way we did business and looked at things, but it gave us common language to use and made it much more meaningful in my book.
Yeah, and taking that and trying to determine, well, how can we improve our efficiency in being able to disseminate our materials, we thought, well, we can do webinars. Those are recorded. People can go back and look at them. And then developing the online distance learning system based on Moodle, where we can set up our curriculum or our modules as a master course and then offer that to other educators so that they can just take that and take out what they don't want, and then they have an online path to do this, to go through these materials and use them for their classes. You know, that was another thing that came out of that type of thinking, the synergy and the scaling thinking. Unfortunately, the educators never latched onto that, but as a result of the IAB in March, one of the industry people said, hey, I need to train these incumbent workers that I'm hiring that have no background in this. They're good people, they want to learn, they just don't know anything about making microsystems in a clean room. And so we said, hey, we can do this for you. And the folks at IMT said, hey, let's try it. So that's happened in March, and you know, we're on our 4th or 5th module with them now. The 3 incumbent workers that are going through it love it. They think it's great. So now we know that will work, that model will work, and we'll use the IMT industry folks as a poster child, as it were, and be able to say, hey, this is what industry does, they like it, they use it, why aren't you considering using it? So that'll be another part of us spreading further and having that capability. And by building this infrastructure, when someone wants something, it becomes for us more of a plug and play, and we can focus on mentoring them rather than trying to develop something. And then they can take what they need to be successful for their students and their employees, whatever the case may be.
That's something that I think we've been, quite frankly, just blessed with the way we work together to just sort of naturally want to spread these offerings, and we don't hold on to things very tightly. There's been so many times where it just seems natural that when you're teaching a particular group, you'll change the way you teach to fit their needs. And it's been good to have this kind of common language, to be able to kind of define what it is that we were already doing.
Yes, that's a good point.
So I know I've learned a lot in my own journey here, being able to take the academic, theoretical type aspects of synergy and then watch how it gets applied, working with you to see it actually in the workshops. And now the fact that we've moved our innovation from being materials utilization focused to spreading the whole workshop now to North Dakota State College of Science and now University of South Florida.
Yeah.
I think that's taken us places that we never imagined going.
The Synergy project catalyzed that. I can say that, and we've been able to do that tech transfer to 2 other clean room sites. So now that you know, the faculty and educators don't have to come to New Mexico to do that. They can go to University of South Florida at their clean room at the NREC Center, or they can go to North Dakota State College of Science at their nano fabrication clean room. And you know, the folks up in North Dakota have taken this stuff and run with it, and they're like low maintenance. You know, you just give them the stuff and they take off with it, and they give us a lot of feedback on how to make things better.
Which
and
is
now
helping us to evolve.
Yeah, and now the University of South Florida is starting to do these things as well. And now we need to get the community colleges in that region to embrace that. But I think we've got a good package now that we'll be able to spread into Florida pretty easily in the next year or so.
Which brings us full circle back to the evaluation, the value-added criteria of the evaluation. We have the further spread of the pressure sensor workshop that's going to be taught in a school that is producing technicians.
Right.
So that's a realized value that we're going to be able to see and acknowledge in our surveys. So the only, I look back at the last 3 years, and within the second year, I found myself quite involved with the evaluation special interest group. And I know I experienced a lot of passion around trying to figure out an effective way of evaluating our efforts with Synergy. So the whole idea of the value creation matrix now at the end, it's a real benefit, but that is one of the things that I would have loved to have been more aware of a year to a year and a half ago, to kind of think about that realized value more up front. So we, like I said earlier, to make a laser focus on what is it exactly that we want to achieve. Yeah. And I know having that value matrix would have enabled that a whole lot more.